Okay, good evening and welcome to this meeting of full council. I have a couple of practical issues to highlight. We have no fire drill planned tonight, so if there is a fire alarm, please make your way out of the building in a calm and orderly fashion, as guided by staff and going down the main staircase and out through the main exit on St Peter's Street or Bethel Street. People with mobility issues should gather in the foyer. On the left-hand side is the chamber in the balustrade, where assistance will be provided. Toilets at the far end of the corridors either side of the chamber, ladies to the left as you leave and gents to the right. May I ask that if you need to leave the chamber, return to the council chamber during the meeting, you ensure that the doors do not slam after you and refrain from talking when another person is speaking. Please note the meeting is being live streamed on the council's YouTube channel and will be capable of repeated viewing. Apologies for absence have been received from councillors Calvert, Price, Kendrick, Thomas, Wardy Smith and Young. Are there any other apologies that need noting? Possibly Councillor Fulton McAllister? Yeah. Thank you. Item 2 is declarations of interest. It should be noted that the monitoring officer has granted the dispensation to all members regarding item 10, the independent remuneration report as it relates to members' financial interests. Are there any other declarations of interest? Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I would like to declare an interest in item 9, as I am the Labour candidate for the Mayor of Norfolk and Suffolk. I believe this is a personal interest, but I will nonetheless absent myself from that discussion.
Thank you. I have an interest in item 14A. I'm the chair of the Active Norfolk Foundation, which is sort of some funding out for referees for girls' football. So that's a non-pecuniary interest, so that doesn't prohibit me from being in here. Okay, so we'll just move on to item 3 then, which is Deputy Lord Mayor's announcements. I've got three events that I've been to in the last month. The first of which was the launch of the Norwich Film Festival, which was really interesting to see some of the quality films that are going to be shown throughout the month, and hopefully attendance for that has been good. It's good to see Cinema City and the Playhouse as part of that. And then at the beginning of the month, I went to the opening ceremony of Ukrainian Culture Week at the UEA. That, in essence, was an opportunity to hear. We were live streaming with a university in Ukraine, and they talked about some of the things that they're experiencing at the moment. And perhaps the most poignant part at the end of that presentation was where we all stood in silence as across the screen cycled the photos of all of the students from that university, recent graduates, who have lost their lives in the war in Ukraine at the moment. And I think, you know, we all collectively come together here on around the 11th of November for remembrance, and that feels slightly more distant than when you're seeing young people who've only very recently left university who are now names on a tombstone. So it was poignant but also uplifting to hear just how positive our Ukrainian friends are about what the future might hold for them and how they're planning for that. But slightly more, I guess, changing the tone, I don't know whether this is a good or a bad thing, but the Lord Mayor was unavailable to attend the live broadcast of This Morning on ITV. So we found some robes up suitable for a Deputy Lord Mayor, and at 7 o'clock that morning I let the producer know what whifflers were, and said, would he like any? And so there we were, Deputy Lord Mayor with robes and a hat and some whifflers, talking about why Norwich is the happiest place to be. Of course, we all know that. But anyway, enough of those things. Let's move on to item 4, which is the minutes. The minutes from the meetings held on the 23rd of September 2025 and the 30th of September 2025 are before Council for confirmation. Are there any points of accuracy that need to be raised? No, thank you. I call upon Councillor Stoddart to propose the approval of the minutes of the meetings held on 23rd September and and the 30th of September.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Formally proposed.
Thank you. I call from Councillor Galvin to second the minutes.
Second, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. That's unanimous. Yeah, that's unanimous and carried. Thank you very much. So we'll now move on to item 5, which is public questions and petitions. We don't have any petitions have been received, but we do have 2 public questions. I will read the first question on behalf of Danny Wilson, which is to Councillor James, Cabinet Member for Housing. Does Norwich City Council recognise the right of people who use CBPMs, medical cannabis, to use their prescriptions in rented property? Will Norwich City Council update any existing policies as well as inform local housing providers and private sector landlords of changes to legislation? Councillor James, would you give your reply, please?
Thank you. The Council recognises the right of its tenants to take prescribed medication, whatever its form, within their own council homes. There is no change of policy necessary in this regard. However, I should point out that social housing providers and private sector landlords may have their own policies and processes over which the Council has no jurisdiction. Thank you.
Thank you. As the questioner is unable to attend the meeting, a supplementary question cannot be asked here at the meeting. Question 2. Elizabeth McGurr, if you'd like to please ask your questions to Councillor Hampton, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Climate and Environment. Thank you.
Thank you. In the context of the Development Management Policy 30, Access and Highway Safety and Norfolk Constabulary reporting of antisocial behaviour, which omits an option to report parked cars on pavements, blocking pedestrian access to footpaths, and motorised scooters and bicycles, and manual cyclists ignoring pedestrian right-of-way on footpaths, can the Council advise whether such use of pedestrianised areas is a cause of concern? If so, what measures the Council is taking to work with Norfolk County Council Highways and Norfolk Constabulary to address the issue? If not, does the Council have concerns about the limitations imposed on pedestrians, and particularly the most vulnerable, ageing population and young children, who are losing freedom of movement in pedestrian designated areas due to concerns about health and safety?
Thank you. Councillor Hampton, would you give your reply, please?
Thank you very much for the question. The Council recognises the importance of maintaining safe and accessible pedestrian routes, especially for those vulnerable users. Under DMP 30, Development Management Policy 30, all new developments must ensure safe access and highway safety. Norwich City Council will enforce parking on pavements where restrictions apply and detailed within a traffic regulation order, TRO. Whilst the law is clear in London and Scotland where parking on the pavement is prohibited unless the Council can judge that it is safe and necessary on that street, outside London there is no such prohibition, and the Council would welcome improvements to allow local authorities to ban pavement parking and giving civil enforcement powers to act against unnecessary obstruction of the pavement. Where pavement restrictions are not in place, members of the public are able to report genuine obstructions to Norfolk Constabulary and Norfolk County Council. And I'd also add that the issue of problem parking is due to be on the work programme of the scrutiny committee I think next year now, isn't it? So there'll be an opportunity to look at this issue in more detail then.
Thank you. Elizabeth McGurr, do you have a supplementary question? You have 1 minute, please, if you do.
Yeah, if you could just advise further on the process the Council want to engage in and the time frame.
Thank you.
I'm afraid I can't remember the detail of your initial question and exactly what process we're talking about. I'm more than happy to get in touch outside this meeting and go into some of what I've said in a bit more detail and with officer support where needed.
That's excellent. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for your question. So I'm now, for the benefit of members so you're aware of this, and because we have some people in the chamber today who are members of the public interested in motion 14B, we're going to mix the running order up a little bit and go straight to motion 14B, which is right of the river chalk streams. So I'll invite Councillor Galvin to move that motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I believe there were amendments or...
So the process that Councillor is that the mover moves, the seconder seconds, and then we'll come on to notify about the amendments.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you everyone, and thank you for the people that have come along to listen today and support this motion, which has had a lot of support. The River Wensum, as you all know by now, is a triple SI and a special area of conservation, and it supports diverse wildlife like otters, water voles, kingfishers and brown trout. It has some very highly conserved species in it as well, like bullhead, brookland grey, white-clawed crayfish, and the wonderfully named Demulan whale snail. And it has watercourses with water crowfoot and water starwort vegetation. A lot is being done, I should say, by diverse partners and has been done for many years to look after Wensum because it is such a treasure. We are so lucky to have it in this city. I've heard it described as the Ganges of this country for its kind of superlative natural qualities, by an ecologist, I should say. External landowners are working together and they're working on landscape scale restoration projects, so people are aware, they're working right across it, so it's really good. However, unfortunately, in 2024 it was classified as in not good condition. This is despite the fact it's one of the most precious rivers in our country, and it's classified as not good condition because of disruption of flow, loss of natural flow, and a huge amount of sewage events in 1 year in 2024, 487 sewage overflow incidents, which lasted 2,410 hours in total. So that's despite people working and being aware. So you can see that we need to do something about this. And this is only being worsened by climate change, by the way. So we brought this motion today as part of a national, it's not a secret this is part of a national progression, but we are one of the first councils to do it. So we have a chance tonight to be ahead, to get ahead, because we are one of the councils with one of the most precious rivers as well. We can join the other councils that are getting ahead on this and actually trying to fill what is a kind of nature-shaped hole, they call it, where nature doesn't really have rights in our legislative system. We obviously here at Norwich City Council can't give it rights, that's the government's job. But what we can do is reset the frame a bit and say we believe it should have rights, and we can take the actions that are very simple, that have all been looked at by officers and agreed by officers, that can take small, not costly actions that will actually open the frame a bit and put the river at the heart of things. And this is very supported by a range of people, over 120 people and organisations have signed a letter in support of this motion. And they're not just any organisations and people either, they're river users, they're people that write about rivers like Robert McFarlane, Patrick Bark and Nick Aitchison. They were keen and they signed within a few days, they were very keen. We're also very lucky to have the Wensum River King present here tonight, who works so hard to look after this precious resource, and other supporters too. One of the residents who wrote me this week to me said I'm a resident in Nelson Ward, I'm a recreational user of the river as well as having strong conservation interests. Norwich City deserves to have a clean, healthy river running through it. And we should do anything we can to protect and improve the river. If Paris can do it, then Norwich can. So today we're asking the City Council to take a really bold and forward-looking step to recognise the rights of the river for the River Wensum. It's not just a waterway on a map, it is, as I've said, one of the most important chalk streams on earth. It's a living artery, it shapes our city's identity, our ecology, and it will help shape our future. It's been treated as an asset to be used, rather than a life support system, which needs to be respected and treasured. It has been pushed to the brink by pollution, habitat loss, over-abstraction, and the cumulative impact of development. However, by recognising rights of the river, we can acknowledge the Wensome's inherent right to exist, to flow, flourish, and to be restored. And this is more than symbolic. It gives our council and our communities and our institutions a stronger legal and moral framework to protect the river, proactively, not reactively. And I say this in full appreciation of all the work that officers have done down the years to look after the river. But I must say, we have been here before. It's more than a decade since I brought forward a motion for this river, and there are still more problems than there ever were. So that's why I think it's so important to widen the frame a bit, step up a bit further, be one of the first councils to bring this forward and throw ourselves wholeheartedly behind it. It's not an anti-development thing either, it's pro-sustainability, it's pro-resilience, and it's profoundly pro-Norwich. It tells our residents, our children, and the world that we take seriously our duty to protect one of the rarest ecosystems on the planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lovelock, second the motion, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Galvin, for bringing this motion, which I'm very happy to second. There are only around 200 chalk streams in the world, and over a quarter are right here in East Anglia. This illustrates just how precious is the River Wensum, which runs through Norwich. Conservationists and river experts consider chalk streams to be as unique as the Amazonian rainforest or the Great Barrier Reef. And to lose one of these chalk streams would be to lose a very special English habitat, including the life that flourishes in and around it. In this motion, the key to emphasising that preciousness is the bestowing of rights to the river. The open letter to councillors that I hope you've all read, from eminent scientists, environmental trusts, and friends and organisations which function around and along the banks of the river, also has at its heart the request to recognise the rights of the River Wensum. I'll just quote two paragraphs from that letter. It says, "Recognising the rights of the river would be a bold and compassionate step, one that reflects the deep relationship between Norwich's people and its natural environment. By granting the Wensum legal rights to exist, flourish and be restored, the Council would signal that the health of our river is not merely an environmental concern, but a moral and civic one. Across the country, the rights of the river is a growing movement, with councils including Lewes District Council, Southampton City Council, Tesco Borough Council and Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council, all adopting river rights motions to protect their rivers. A rights of the river framework does not replace existing environmental protections. It strengthens them by seeking to embed the river's well-being into the heart of local decision-making. So they have called on Norwich City Council to pass the rights of the river motion, recognising the River Wensum as a living entity with a right to exist. And in the motion, you see the right to flourish, regenerate, and evolve naturally, and to embed the river's rights within future local planning and environmental policies, ensuring that the Wensum's health is considered in every relevant decision. As Lucy said, let's be bold. Let's be one of those first councils to fully commit to the rights of the river and as set out in this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. So one amendment has been submitted from Councillor Hampton. This has been tabled. Councillor Galvin, do you accept the proposed amendment that Councillor Hampton has tabled?
No, I don't.
Thank you. In which case we'll now debate that amendment. Councillor Hampton, would you please move your amendment, please?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. And obviously in this debate we're speaking firmly to the amendments as much as I mirror a lot of what's been said about the importance of the river, and we'll come to that. But specifically what we propose today is I think quite a small and precise set of changes to make this more deliverable and more realistic for the council to actually be able to take this forward. So points 1 and 2 we've left as is. The first changes come in that we're proposing on point 3, which is that firstly we want it to read work alongside local community relevant stakeholders, and we've inserted and partners of the River Wensum Strategy Delivery Board, added that in to reflect certainly don't want to duplicate work. We want all the partners who have already, as has been said, done some really vital and valuable work over the years to be a part of this, or have the opportunity to be a part of this as well, and actually their expertise and in some cases their practical influence of what this could deliver will be really, really helpful. Also on this point, it originally read this will involve producing a declaration of the rights of river by relevant stakeholders for possible endorsement by the council or within 2 years. We have changed this to this could involve producing a declaration, largely because in the context of this, what a declaration is, what it involves is, well, the context isn't there, it's very light touch. You have, of course, gone away and looked at examples of other councils, one declaration over the line so far. The gap between their motion passing and the declaration coming into existence was, for starters, it was greater than the 2-year time constraint given here. We have to obviously be realistic with this particular council. We're in the process of local government reform. This is potentially work for starters that will run beyond the lifetime of the council. And we don't necessarily want to compromise too much on the work that goes into this. The other councils who have taken this work forward, one of the most important and vital elements of it has been community engagement, helped supported by partners. Also in terms of the council's capacity to deliver this potential work alongside its other priorities, we need to do some more looking at what exactly such a declaration would involve, which partners are willing to come on board and take a very practical stance to kind of help take some of that or kind of make it sustainable into the long term, perhaps past the lifetime of this council if we're not here by the time that work needs to come to fruition. We've taken out point 4, which is create a memorandum of understanding with partners responsible for protecting and improving standards. We're not clear what such a memorandum of understanding again is supposed to cover or why it is distinct from a declaration. We've looked at, as I say, all the other council motions on this topic. None have had both in, so without a bit more discussion and engagement around that point, we're really not sure the value of it. Everything else, we're more than content to accept writing to the Environment Agency, work in collaboration. Maybe we should have made that.
Councillor Hampton, could you draw your remarks to a close, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to leave it there because, as I say, we're content with the rest of the resolution points of this motion.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Jones, do you wish to speak on it? Even if just to formally second.
Formally second.
Thank you. Are there any other members that wish to speak on the amendment? No? Oh, yes. Councillor Laws.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I think everyone here agrees with the aims of the motion, and certainly I agree with nearly everything that Councillors Gavin and Ludwig has said. And we're all anxious to preserve and restore River Wensum, but it's how you get there that's important, and not creating, in fact, barriers to that possible outcome. We need to be clear that references to rights and personhood do not entail actual legal rights and legal personhood. The two main problems with that: one is that the river as a legal person is a flawed concept. The other is introducing new legal dimensions. The existing framework for environmental protection can actually get in the way of protecting the Wensum. First of all, the preamble of this motion cites examples of corporations.
Councillor Laws, are you talking specifically on the amendment at the moment? rather than the full item?
Well, I was supporting the amendment in the sense that it's taking out some of those references to legal person. Is that okay?
Well, the amendment doesn't actually address the preamble.
I think, okay.
You can't amend the preamble, basically.
Right, okay. But if I can just say that an analogy with corporate entities is not valid because corporate entities depend on underlying human agency. With corporate entities, there are human beings who can, in a legally and morally coherent sense, attribute responsibility for the company's actions. These might be the owners, directors, and managers of other employees. In fact, the company can only carry on its activities through human actors. That is not the case with the river. Just to emphasize, I'm approaching this from a strictly legal and philosophical point of view. I'm keen that we get this right. There is also an ethical problem with admitting non-human actors into our legal and moral universe. One of the first questions actually asked in the context that we're discussing is, can I sue the river if it floods and damages my land or crops? This highlights the problem of divorcing rights from obligations. Without going into a broader discussion, I would just say that having rights should at least include the obligation to respect the rights of others. That is not possible with a non-human entity. Second, there are a range of statutory provisions and mechanisms for protecting and enhancing our environment, including rivers such as the Wensum. Unless we took the risky step of repealing or removing these, and I understand to not be intention, the introduction of full legal rights to nature would simply create a parallel legal framework, adding to complexity and cost. The resulting duplicate sets of legal arguments, possibly with different standards of proof, could well obscure the underlying environmental issues involved. This might also cause harmful delay. The rights of nature approach to Winston would enable anyone to take action on the river's behalf. That would almost certainly lead to chaos with possibly competing legal actions. Alternatively, you could appoint certain bodies to act on the river's behalf, but what would that add to the role of, for example, the Broads Authority? Finally, the idea of rights of the river artificially isolates a particular feature of nature and can lead to conflict of rights with other features of nature who logically should have rights too. If we attribute rights to the aquatic life that is supported by the river, what are they and how do they relate to the rights of the river? Perhaps more importantly, we might want to manage or even divert the river flow to prevent flooding and perhaps protect another precious habitat. How are the rights of different elements of nature to be balanced? These are questions that the motion raises but leaves unanswered. Are
you drawing your remarks to a close? I allowed you a bit of extra time over 3 minutes because I interrupted you. We've got a bit over that now.
Yeah, I was very big, so I would prefer a stewardship approach, which actually puts rights and obligations on human beings. Thank you.
Any other members wish to speak on the amendment? Councillor Chan.
I love a bit of philosophy, so thank you for that. That was great. What I would say is that philosophy is rooted in a humanistic and in a sense of the current paradigm. The current paradigm is literally killing us. Our paradigm of thought, our paradigm of law, our paradigm of philosophy, and our paradigm of politics. The idea that this is going to be amended to replace will with could, for me, highlights everything about politics that really frustrates me. Because institutions require to be given boundaries. You know, we look at the Paris Agreement, with climate change. You give institutions a bit of elbow room, they're going to take the mick. We don't, I think we need to keep the original wording of this so that the council is committed and has got a deadline so that it actually has an achievable goal. To say you could do something, I could go on a world cruise tomorrow. I could do loads of things. To say I will do something is an entirely different beast. I appreciate that probably everyone in this room thinks that this is a good idea, this is a good motion. And the problem with progressive politics is it gets lost in legalese, it gets lost in convoluted philosophy, and it gets bogged down with old politics. We need to be bold, and we can be bold as a council. And I would ask that we in this chamber support the motion in its original iteration and don't support this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Lubbock.
I didn't quite understand Councillor Law's amendment his speech insofar as everything about this motion is about the rights of the river and about rights of nature. And if you don't agree with that, then you don't agree with the subject of the motion, which is rights of the river. And throughout we talk about the rights of the river. So the amendments that are being put forward are fairly insignificant, but his argument was that we shouldn't have the rights of the river. And so it changes the whole ethos of the motion. So I don't quite understand how just changing those parts of 3 and 4 can actually be to his satisfaction or anyone's satisfaction, because his argument is that you don't have the rights, rivers don't have rights. But other councils manage to do it, and it is actually about a feeling of being passionate about the river and doing something about it. And saying that the river can't, the river can't have rights because it can't sue us, I mean, that's nonsense. But what is in this is not nonsense. It is just trying to improve a river and taking a slightly different way of doing it. Not taking something from the river, but giving it something back and making sure it's not polluted, etc., etc. But I just cannot understand Councillor Lawes' argument. If he doesn't believe in the rights of a river, then he doesn't believe in any of this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Stoddard.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Richard said, Councillor Law said at all. And I don't think that he is against the rights of the river or protecting the river in the way that the motion intends it to. It's about protecting the river. And I think he made some really clear, logical, rational points. I was really impressed, actually. He's a lawyer after all. You would expect him to understand the law and to have done his research. And I think the point in particular that I liked was where he said, well, if you give a river rights, well, what about the rights of the organisms or the fish or who live in it? What happens if its rights come up against the rights of, say, an area of outstanding protected natural beauty, and you need to actually divert the river to protect that area? How do you decide? How do you balance the two if you give rights to the river? You need to give rights to many, many other non-human entities. And those rights might conflict. So what's been proposed in that sense, and in the sense of giving the river rights in that way, is illogical, irrational. It's a contradiction, an inherent contradiction. And I think Richard made the point really well. And I do think it's quite, for me, quite amusing really, that when logic hits, suddenly it's just the wrong paradigm. I didn't actually hear a rational, logical, evidence-based argument against Richard. I just heard, it's inconvenient, so it's the wrong paradigm.
Councillor Jones.
I represent my rights as seconding this amendment. I would want to support Councillor Hampton's amendment because I think it's very important that we can all come together on this motion, given how important the river is for us. And this would enable, I know, for me to be able to support this, and I think supporting the river, I think that's something we can all stand together on with these small adjustments. So I would hope that we could all support that and have one voice on this together with these small changes.
Councillor Oliver.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to speak against the amendment on a couple of points. First of all, with regard to local government reorganisation, I don't think that's a reason to amend the motion. I think the River Wensum isn't moving anywhere, and while we have authority over our part of that land, then I think we should press on and do everything we can without delaying further for a time when it's more convenient, perhaps, when we're in our new government formation. I'm not sure if this should be against the motion or part of the substantive, but I just wondered if we can point to any of the consequences that are being mooted. You know, the kind of maybe this and the kind of opposing rights. Has that ever happened anywhere? The concept of rights of nature is you know, was first put into a scientific paper, a legal paper in 1972, so it's hardly a new thing. I'd hope that you know, some of these dire consequences might have already been evidenced if they were going to take place.
Thank you, Councillor Galvin.
Is this my time to wrap up? Or?
No, you indicated you wish to speak on the amendment.
Will I get to speak on the amendment again, or do I speak now?
No, because you're not moving the amendment, so you get to speak once more.
I'll speak now then,
Yeah.
if that's okay. So yeah, I would like the motion to go through as is, because it is a motion I perhaps can give you a bit of comfort here. I went to a meeting at Matrix Chambers about this motion, and there were cases there all supporting it, and councils across the country. So it's within a legal framework. So I can put you in touch with the cases, and they supported and hosted the meetings. So within the legal framework, this is not seen as a strange idea. It's seen as something that very much can be taken up and gone forward. And it was one of the cases there that said we traditionally have invented rights for things to right wrongs. There was a lawyer that said that. Rights are invented to right wrongs. So I think I was very reassured by that meeting. I'm sure you would have been if you were there, and there were many, many people there. The laws are moving this sort of thing, and it's created to work in our human world. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. Secondly, I think it's even more important to do it now because of LGR and our legacy, essentially, as a council, which we want to, in the next few years, to have put through the legacy. And I know we're doing it in other areas, I think we should do it here. And the catchment will be much wider in the future, so to have this bit at the beginning would be very good. I think just the main thing for me is the word will, changing it to could. It just, all the work I know from all the people across the whole country that have worked on this, that are hopeful, other places that have been in touch, places in our own area, all those people that have signed things, to then look back at them and say, we're changing the word will to the word could. It's just not something I can accept at this present point in time as a council. I don't think it's where we are as a council. I think we're better than that. A long time ago, my colleague, who's sadly departed now, many of you will have known him, Adrian Holmes, put a motion for the Wentz. It's probably about 15 years ago now. We've had many motions since, and we haven't seen the kind of progress that we need and would like. So I'm just saying now, this is shifting the dial a bit. It's another way to do it, okay? It's a paradigm shift, but a paradigm shift is unusual, and it's not an unusual one, and it is within the bounds of the law. So I would urge you to accept the motion as is.
Councillor Padder.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a couple of points. The first one is that I think we're all on the same side when it comes to the river. We all are committed. I use the river, I kayak, I fish. I'm very committed to protecting the river. My worry is the notion of rights. So the idea of, aside from the legal framing of rights, the idea of property rights led to this race to fish mentality in the North Sea, and that led to the collapse of the North Sea Cod. So that nuance of property rights and rights really does concern me. So unless that's kind of unpacked, I think for me, I would want to kind of bottom out what that means. Because I've read the motion, it makes sense, but there are a few things that I think for me I would like bottomed out. Thank you.
Okay. Do any other members wish to speak on the amendment? No, thank you. In which case, Councillor Hampton. Oh, sorry, Councillor Fox.
We have this sort of really human-centric perspective of the
world that has got us to exactly where we are, which is that our natural world is absolutely going down the pan, and you can be sure it will take us with it. Our rivers are just streams of shit. You look at the maps of the rivers, and you can like there's those online maps that show you exactly where sewage is spilling out. That's the situation we're in by keeping that human-centric perspective. And I understand what you're saying, Councillor Padder, but those are rights that have been imbued to humans, rights that are property rights that have been given to humans over a river. And there have been times in our history when we've also been really uncomfortable about giving others who we haven't seen as quite human enough as rights. So, for example, women haven't had rights. We've had to fight for race rights because, like, entities have been seen as less than. And we need to get away from this sort of human-centric worldview if we're going to get ourselves out of this mess. And I think that this motion is like a small step towards that. And I hope that we can find enough imagination to just step out of like the structures that we have created that have got us into these situations. They're not going to help us get out of them. So we have to start to think differently. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's it now. So, Councillor Hampton, would you like to respond, please?
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I'll come back in a few bits. I'm going to park any discussion around the rights element and focus back on the kind of specific amendment changes. So, coming back on points around LGR, now I obviously fully appreciate the river isn't moving anywhere that this council is, or moreover may cease to exist within the sort of likely timescale this sort of work will take and has taken in the one area which has proceeded with it so far. I think our point is, if we were to proceed with anything in this vein, we want it to be resilient to LGR, which will probably mean bringing on board and being sure to have on board partners to help take that forward, both practically beyond the life of the council in terms of offering support and resource as well, potentially. So this isn't necessarily about going, no, we just don't want to do this. It's about, if we are going to do this, as has happened with the River Ouse example, that had a much greater engagement from the community, from partners at a much earlier stage. This isn't necessarily something we should just be saying as one council who isn't going to exist for much longer if all goes to plan, touch wood, but we will do this and that's it. I think actually most of that discussion went off to the rights bit, which I think is probably most appropriate for me to talk about in my response, because it's mostly the preamble, I think. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll now move to the vote on the amendment, please. This is the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, please indicate.
Six, 17.
All those against, please indicate. Okay, so the amendment is carried. So we'll now continue with the debate on the substantive motion, including the amendment. So I'll now move over to group spokespersons. So, Councillor Hampton, you're up again, speaking on behalf of the Labour Group.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try not to duplicate what's already been said in terms of all the partnership work, existing protections of a River Wensum, and just how generally valued I'm sure it is by everyone in this chamber. I think part of the confusion in the amendments discussion was we did approach, albeit fairly last minute, Councillor Galvin with a suggestion of an amendment which we appreciate she would have had to make herself, to the preamble, which was just taking out the line about the idea of extending legal personhood rights to non-human entities is not a new concept, with these rights already extended to corporations globally to provide a distinct legal status from individuals within an organisation, partly because I knew it would just cause this debate to kind of descend into talk about a river as a person, personifying a river, kind of, but we don't have the power to give legal rights, whereas I'm sure we can all agree with the basic rights as listed here and a lot of the principles in at least a philosophical sense, even if we know that as a council we don't have the legal powers in the way that with the Universal Declaration, some of the national the nations who have been able to do this and do have the rights to really enshrine it. So we would have been much more comfortable with that motion taken out as Councillor Laws. I think this is where a lot of his comments were coming from. Corporations are still an entirely human entity. I think from my perspective, we shouldn't really be dealing with corporations or lumping them in with rivers. I think a lot of the whole point of this is that we don't want just a management top-down approach or kind of human-only led. So that just didn't sit quite right, and I know some other councils have that line in, but I know a lot of them have passed this motion without it, so that's where a lot of that came from, and that was what was going on behind the scenes. Bear with me. Councillor Galvin rightly highlighted the ongoing issues with pollution, sewage outputs into the river, which have been at unacceptable and rising levels, especially under the Tory government. The Labour government is coming forward with an ambitious and quite bold programme looking to eliminate pollution in rivers completely by 2035, halving pollution by the end of the decade, and with dedicated targets for reduction for discharging into high priority sites, including rare chalk streams. The reforms also aim to reduce phosphorus from treated wastewater by half by 2028, which causes algal blooms, which are harmful to wildlife, introduces 104 billion of investment to upgrading crumbling pipes, building new treatment works. Environment Agency received a record 189 million to support hundreds of enforcement officers for inspections and prosecutions. Pledged to work with devolved governments, importantly, on measures such as banning wet wipes containing plastics, continued work on pre-pipe measures such as sustainable drainage systems, and the start of trials by water companies of nature-based solutions. It is a bold plan. We want to see it come into action and pave the way to go further and faster in due course, especially with regards to measures that would help and support chalk streams like River Wensum. I am pleased that Councillor Galvin acknowledged that this isn't an anti-development motion. That is something that I think is clear in the text of this, and we did really appreciate that. As administration, we do feel we want to be open and transparent about what powers we do have, the need to deliver other priorities, environmental house building, a whole package that are important to residents across the city, so we do want to be wary of what resource and capacity we're putting into work, as well as everything I've already talked about to do with timescales and LGR. Basic rights versus legal rights, as I say, we do not disagree whatsoever that the river should have the rights listed here, but as a council, we don't have the ability to confer legal personhood. Any discussion about rights really, it is quite a big, bold idea, and we need to make sure we're bringing communities along with us. So we would not see any work moving forward on this involve a suitable amount of engagement, as has happened elsewhere around the country. With these amendments accepted, I think we are minded to support this, even with our reservations about some of that limited bit of wording in the preamble, because we certainly wouldn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater over this. There is, for all this discussion, an awful lot we support the sentiment of, and of course, overall, we want to show that we want to send a message that we support and value the River Wensum, and even if it is symbolic, the word that gets thrown about a lot, any opportunity just to put
bring
that
your remarks
across.
to a close. Your 5 minutes are up.
I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members that wish to speak on the substantive item? Okay, Councillor Maguire first, and Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. And once again, I've lost count of how many times variations on this motion has been brought forward. And the annoying thing is there's so much good in the actual commitments, but the preamble has so much that is totally anathema to much of what I and many others see the world, the idea of giving rights, the idea of protecting the rights, this false notion of personhood that doesn't understand it. I think, I believe in the US you can, or companies are put on probation and so on, but we don't do anything like that. It's always the people who are prosecuted. Notion of personhood, or one might wonder whether there's no deification, talking about Mother Ganges, or Old Father Thames for that matter. There's all very well talking about a river in those terms of endearment, but that's what they are. They're not to be enshrined in any kind of formal sense because they don't make sense. I think it's really sad that we detract from the human rights which people have fought for, given their lives in some cases. And this is a travesty, the notion of rights. Yes, I like Councillor's expression of stewardship. We have a stewardship, we have duties towards the river. That river brought Norwich into existence. It still provides us with water to drink. It gives us leisure. It gives us much. But it is a river. It's not a person. It's certainly not some deity. It's very, very wrong, I think, to start talking about personhood or rights. But there we are. We've got that far. And as I say, I do embrace the commitments at the end. These are all worthy. Why this stupidity of personhood? Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'd just like to clarify my earlier comments because they were queried in the earlier debate and I understand where they're coming from. I just want to emphasise, and I can't emphasise this too much, that I am totally behind all efforts to preserve and where necessary restore the river, something that's a precious feature of our landscape. The 2 points I'd like to make very simply are, we can make a declaration of rights, that's fine, has some poetic, maybe religious significance, but either they're legally enforceable or they're not. If they're legally enforceable, it can lead to various problems, which I set out in my earlier speech. And I agree with Councillor Fox that there is a mess to sort out with the environment. The people who are going to sort out the mess are humans. Therefore, my second point is, let's put the obligations and the rights, if you like, the rights of future generations, let's put those rights and obligations on humans who can actually do something about it. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Sands.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I do support the amended motion. There is a lot in there which is of merit, but there is also other things. We've discussed this whole issue of personification of the river. What I would like the motion to have spoken about would be perhaps the fact that the river is an extension of the Broads National Park, which comes under the Broads Authority, and the role of the Broads Authority in stewardship of not just the Broads, but the river itself. Also, I would like the motion to address perhaps the role of Anglian Water, which has, as we know, been discharging raw effluent into the Wensum and indeed into the Yare for quite some time. And although I do support this motion, I'd like it to go further in addressing A, the role of the Broads Authority in stewardship of the National Park, Broads National Park and the river through the city, which is an extension of the National Park, and also attacking more the mismanagement, should I say, of our river systems by Anglia Water. Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Councillor Giles.
Thank you. I hadn't planned to speak. Evidently, we changed the word from will to could, not won't. So it would be in bad faith not to explore that possibility. However, I do think we should be working in partners with others after this meeting to discuss what are the most effective ways we can enhance the ecological nature of the Wensum, and that may include producing a declaration on the rights of the river, or it may not. As Councillor Laws said, if we were to go down that route, ultimately it would be symbolic because it wouldn't be legally enforceable. I would like to, and I haven't got details right in front of me, but I would like to gently draw attention to the work that the Norfolk Nutrient Mitigation Partnership have been doing, working in partnership with Norfolk Wildlife Trust, Natural England, and our wholly owned company, NEC Limited, to invest in the largest expansion of ancient woodland in centuries in Norfolk, in Foxley Wood and Wood Norton, and the value that will bring in improving the nutrient balance within the River Wensum, that is tackling the eutrophication, which has been the cause of so many rare species decline in recent years. So while we can look at producing a declaration of the rights of the river, and in good faith we should consider that, it needs to be considered alongside other practical measures which can be taken to enhance the ecological value of the river and achieve what we all want to see across all parties in this chamber. Thank you.
Councillor Knight.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. We've gotten quite philosophical and talked a lot about personification and rights and things like that. This kind of discussion has made me feel as though humans aren't the only things with rights. Animals have rights, and we're talking about this as if oh, you can't sue a river. Well, you can't sue a dog either. If we're talking about stewardship and good stewardship, then we should be taking responsibility for the river. And by trying to take it out of context and say, oh, it's about personification and it's religious and stuff like that, kind of takes the point out of what this motion actually is. And I think that we need to think a little bit more about how we're going to safeguard the future of the river for the rights of the people of Norwich to have access to that river in the future. Thank you.
Councillor Oliver.
Thank you. So there's been plenty of description of existing mechanisms that we have, but clearly then we need to think differently, because if those mechanisms were all that was necessary, then we wouldn't be in the position we're in now. We've spoken about legal concerns, and I'd like to quote a solicitor from a lawyer, from 1972. Each time there is a movement to confer rights onto some new entity, each time the proposal is bound to sound odd or frightening or laughable. This is partly because until the rightless thing receives its rights, we cannot see it as anything but a thing for the use of us, those who are holding rights at the time. So in 1972, it's a long time ago. It's time we work this up, is it not?
Any other members wish to speak? No? In which case, Councillor Gavin, can you respond, please?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I'm disappointed, to be honest, in the amendment, and I'm disappointed to hear Councillor Giles says it's okay to change from will to could because he can't say it won't. Well, you couldn't have changed it to won't. That would negate the motion. So maybe you would like to change it to won't, so you've forced it down to could instead. I want to be part of a council that does things. I want to be part of a council that increases collaboration, that increases participation, that when it sees a problem and can join with other councils that are doing this, does it. That's why I didn't really appreciate the changes. I don't like to see will to could. There's enough things that he always got dragged on here already, and everyone knows it's true. And so I don't want that to happen. But there we go, that has happened. At least you're supporting the motion, and I thank you for that. I'm really pleased to see it supported, despite all the kind of things that have been said. There is a nature-shaped hole in the rules. We do love nature in this country, and we love looking after it. But we're the most nature-depleted country in the world. So there's obviously a major issue with how we're looking after it. We can all recognise that, we can all do something about it. So I thank you for supporting this motion today. I'm really, really glad that it's finally gone through, and I hope that we get somewhere with it and things aren't sort of just made into codes. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move to the vote, please. All those in favour, please indicate. Unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you to those people who've come along this evening for that. So we'll now move on to item 6, which is portfolio holder updates. So I will now ask each cabinet member to provide a brief update on their portfolios. Councillor Stannard, if you can provide your update, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. And as this is the first time we've given such updates, I will cover issues from the entire civic year. So this civic year so far has been dominated by the devolution and local government reorganisation agenda. A great deal of work has gone into preparing for the creation of the combined mayoral authority and elections for the mayor of Norfolk and Suffolk next May. Much of this work has been carried out in partnership with our colleagues and councils in Norfolk as well as Suffolk. The county councils are leading the devolution process in collaboration with district councils. The aim is to ensure the incoming mayor is able to function as effectively as possible from day one. Both counties' cabinets have approved the proposal to establish an elected mayor and combined authority for Norfolk and Suffolk. Office facilities are being arranged and interim staffing is being recruited. A pipeline of potential strategic infrastructure schemes has been drawn up by the counties and districts to enable the mayor to begin to pursue a strategic agenda as early as possible in their term. In parallel, preparations for local government reorganisation have proceeded at pace over the spring, summer and autumn. LGR proposals for Norfolk and Suffolk were developed over the spring and summer and were submitted to an NHCLG by the deadline of the 26th of September. As you know, for Norfolk, 3 options for future unitary councils were submitted. The county council has proposed a single unitary council covering the whole county. South Norfolk has proposed 2 unitary councils covering the east and west of the county, and the remaining 6 districts, including Norwich, have proposed a 3 unitary solution, which includes urban Norwich on extended boundaries. Southern County Council similarly submitted a proposal for a single unitary council for Suffolk. The 5 Suffolk district councils submitted a proposal for 3 unitary councils. The Norfolk and Suffolk districts' 3 unitary proposals both referenced one another and made it clear that they've been working together. A joint letter in support of both 3 unitary proposals signed by the leaders of 11 of the 12 districts in Norfolk and Suffolk and almost all the MPs across the area. Meanwhile, the next stage of the process is the statutory consultation, which is run by MHCLG and is currently live and will run until mid-January. We are actively encouraging participation in this process. I've also been presenting the case of unitary councils in general and an urban unitary council for Norwich in particular to a range of stakeholders, including the deputy lieutenants, the Dean's Breakfast Group and other stakeholder forums. I've spoken to questions at the launch of the Inner Circle report, A Case for Cities, which makes a compelling argument for unitary cities at the House of Parliament in September. I've also supported research and lobbying work by the Key Cities Group and the District Councils Network in support of the unitary concept. At the City Council, we've also recently received the first of what I anticipate will be a number of invitations to address parish councils, which will become part of the unitary Norwich on extended boundaries. And along with the Chief Executive, I attended a meeting of Heatherset Parish Council a couple of weeks ago. All this activity will continue over the winter. We expect to be informed of the Minister's decisions on new local government boundaries in March of 2026. The other one thing I want to report on is around social cohesion. There have been challenges to social cohesion locally and nationally. We're all well aware of that. Following the Manchester synagogue attack, I sent messages of support to the liberal Jewish community and the Norwich Hebrew congregation, and in response was invited to attend 2 separate interfaith services. I was pleased to see representation of these services from the Anglican, Roman Catholic, Islamic and Hindu faiths, and to be able to express the Council's support for all our faith communities in person. I also attended an event in Norwich to celebrate Diwali along with Clive Lewis MP, where we addressed those present, reaffirmed our support for all faith communities and took part in the celebrations. In addition to this, I've maintained my regular ongoing contact with the city's mosques. Also in the wake of the Manchester attack, the City of Sanctuary organised a large meeting bringing together a very wide range of city institutions and community organisations to discuss how we can all work together to ensure Norwich remains a welcoming and accepting place for all, where everyone can feel safe. I attended alongside Clive Lewis MP and Alex MacDonald MP, individuals representing faiths, community organisations, local charities, including those that work directly with refugees and asylum seekers, and local businesses. It was a rich and positive discussion which reminded me that, despite the recent high-profile displays of intolerance, Norwich remains at its heart a civilised, compassionate and welcoming place. The organiser, Ben Margolis of the City of Sanctuary, is now collating the discussion and will make proposals for next steps in due course, and I think I've received a meeting invitation this very day actually on that regard. I also had a meeting with the Police and Crime Commissioner to exchange views on recent unit detentions and have received ongoing updates from the constabulary. The Council has commissioned Belong, a specialist consultancy, to help us navigate our way through these tensions and keep Norwich as that civilised, compassionate and welcoming place I mentioned earlier. Many of you will have met them, and from a workshop I was at earlier in the week, there was an emerging consensus that despite many of the drivers of division being driven by national issues and politics, there is a great deal we can do locally to foster compassion and acceptance across our diverse communities. I'm very hopeful that, working with Belong and working with the communities I've mentioned, we will be able to achieve just that. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stard. Councillor Hampton, would you like to provide your update, please?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Similarly, I'll do a bit of a look back on the year since it's the last full council meeting in view of the first of his report, so it should provide a bit of a baseline for understanding going forward. So these are just some highlights across climate and environment, and what I would say first is the fact that there is now a climate environment directorate is a real statement of intent and reaffirms our commitment to a greener, cleaner Norwich, starting with climate action and environmental strategy work, which has been extensive. So there are currently over £30 million of climate and nature recovery projects underway in the city. This includes a record £17 million of funding from the Labour government to install energy efficiency measures across the private and social sector, which was topped up with a further £10 million from the council HRA. These works will reduce emissions, cut bills and keep homes warm, making a real difference to the lives of those set to benefit. We're also awarded £760,000 from the Nature Towns and Cities Fund to develop a citywide nature recovery plan in partnership with Norfolk Wildlife Trust, Norfolk County Council and Borden and South Norfolk District Councils. The environmental strategy team have recruited 4 new permanent members of staff to help be able to deliver even further and faster going forward and seek our climate environmental emergency executive panel. The papers for that, which are publicly accessible online, are a really good source for a slightly more detailed update quarterly on what's been going on in this area. On air quality in Norwich continues to improve, with no nitrogen dioxide annual mean exceedances within the air quality monitoring assessment in 2024, which is the last reporting period, results of which were submitted and accepted by DEFRA a couple of months ago in the summer. On parks, it was a real pleasure this morning to be at the launch event for this council's debut 10-year Parks and Green Spaces strategy. And at the same event, we celebrated and handed out 6 Green Flag Awards and 2 Green Heritage Awards received by City Parks this year, which is a really great achievement, but we don't want to stop there. We want to bring even more parks up to that flagship standard for next year and onwards. This event was also a really valuable opportunity to thank friend groups and volunteers for their dedication, enthusiasm and commitment, which has helped shape our parks and green spaces into the vibrant, growing spaces they are. volunteer work with the Norwich Fringe project, for example. Mousehole Heath alone amounted to over 3,600 hours last year. We've continued to attract funding and to deliver a programme of major investments in our parks, including progressing with the £1.1 million programme of play area improvements, completion of the £980,000 Eaton Park changing room upgrade and decarbonisation project, delivery of accessibility and nature improvements at Ketts Heights, completion of the Hyam Park toilet refurbishment, making them more inclusive, winning £315,000 from Heritage England to restore and enhance accessibility of the Chucklefield Gardens bandstand, £215,000 from the National Lottery Heritage Fund for a project to support restoration of a number of our most historic parks and spaces. Hopefully that project will help us leave a lot more money going forward and still more projects completed beyond that. Finally, looking at waste, recycling and a cleaner Norwich. Firstly, just actually to reflect on some business as usual on the waste side of things, which goes on in the background, can be taken for granted. Past year there's been 17,000 tonnes of recycling, garden and food waste collected, 7.6 million bins collected, and over 5,000 bulky items picked up through the collection service. Working with NCSL, this year we invested over £1 million to procure a new fleet of mechanical sweepers, as well as 7 electric stand-on mowers and 3 vinyl mowers, which should boost performance and support us in keeping our streets and open spaces clean and tidy. In the first month of having an enforcement officer to target fly tipping offences, which is a role we were able to create using UK shared prosperity funding, we were able to issue 13 fixed penalty notices, engage with 55 businesses which had appropriate rate risk contracts, and issued £2,500 of penalties. The Council's Norwich Delivery Group will continue exploring and delivering solutions to tackle fly tipping, graffiti and other issues that impact cleanliness and amenity of our city. So that's quite a quick high-level run-through across my portfolio. I'm really proud of what we've achieved and the work that's been going on to set a vision and plan into the future to get us where we need to go next. And thank you to officers across not just the Directorate but the whole Council, because work on actions which benefit climate environment shouldn't just be siloed within one area. So just thank them for all their incredible hard work over this period.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hampton. Councillor Harper, could you provide your update, please?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Councillor Galvin said a moment ago she wants to be part of a council that does things, and so do I, and that's why I'm incredibly proud to be able to give my portfolio report tonight. I'm going to begin with Anglia Square because it marks a truly generational moment for our city. After many years of uncertainty, demolition is finally underway. This milestone obviously made possible thanks to £34 million worth of support from Homes England, demonstrating the strength of the partnership between a Labour government and a Labour council working together for Norwich. And I just want to state again, because I know there's been some comprehension difficulties with this, but we've gone from 10% affordable housing to 50% affordable housing, at least 85% of which will be available at social rent levels. If that isn't a triumph for this administration, I don't know what is. We have acquired the Barclays Bank site, giving us the ability to shape the wider redevelopment project even further. Again, one of the biggest regeneration schemes the city's seen in decades, and it represents a major step forward for the north of the city centre. I'm also pleased to say, on the investment partnership side, we're finalising the legal work so that we can move towards incorporation, and it's expected that the IP will be formally up and running within the next month, with their initial business plan to be reported to Cabinet early in the new year. The team is working towards putting in place necessary arrangements as well for remediation and archaeology to enable the construction of the initial phases and plots to commence last year. On the governance side, I'm pleased to say the Anglia Square Working Group is now up and running. Engagement from the main opposition party has been limited, unfortunately. Fewer than half of their councillors that were invited managed to attend and stay for the whole session last time, but we remain committed to the working group and hope to see everyone there when it meets next tomorrow. And also training has commenced for the new shareholder panel, which I'm sure will be welcomed by everyone. On St Saviour's Yard, we've got a genuine success story. I know, unfortunately, that hasn't been universally welcomed by everyone, but it is a success story. The new box park proving to be one of the most exciting opportunities in the north of the city centre. It's attracted remarkable enthusiasm, nearly 500 expressions of interest, and all units are now filled. Traders are benefiting from some of the best value retail space anywhere in this part of the country. We know we've got it right when we were accused of pricing it too high, and then we were accused of pricing it too low. But we are helping independent businesses flourish and bringing real vibrancy into the area. I'll move on to the next success story. Slowbottom Park. Our work at Slowbottom represents a £9 million investment in one of the most significant investments this council has made into a community facing long-term deprivation. A major focus this year has been on building trust with residents and involving them directly in shaping the project. And I'm pleased to say we've just launched our playground consultation, giving children, families and the wider community a real say in designing new play facilities. And I know my colleague Councillor Kidman will talk more about some of the facilities that they can enjoy. On the provisions market, we've been working closely with traders on the future of the market. Rightly, one of our city's most cherished assets. We had a phenomenal response to consultations over the summer, and we're about to go live with the final design concepts. And I'll be meeting with traders next week to discuss these in detail and gather their views. Their insight is obviously central to getting this right. In the meantime, we've already delivered practical improvements, upgraded CCTV, work underway on improving pigeon control measures, more on that tomorrow, and we're involved in active discussions about how to make restocking easier for traders. Small changes, some of these, but they make a meaningful difference to daily life at the market, and they support the people that keep it thriving. And I'm very proud of the work that we are doing there. Again, Labour delivering for our city. On the livestock markets, and I'm speaking quickly to canter through all of this because there's a lot of delivery to talk about. We've continued to progress the relocation of Norwich livestock market to a new site in Norfolk. It's complex work, but it's essential for securing the market's long-term future and supporting our rural economy and enabling the facility to modernise and grow. We've had royal assent to move the market out of the city. We've appointed consultants to work up a detailed proposal for planning submission in 2026. And I make no apology for that because we believe if we're going to do things like this, we need to do them properly. We'll continue to seek and secure the support of wider stakeholders in Norfolk, including the County Council, MPs and of course our farmers for this regional facility, which is important to farmers and the rural community. And we will be bidding for funds from the combined mayoral authority once it is established. I will just briefly mention insourcing at Lion Homes because obviously we've had to counter a huge amount of misinformation about that, and it's disappointing that some people in the Chamber have persisted in trying to make political mileage out of the issue. We'll shortly receive the independent evaluation of Lion Homes assets, which will begin to repay some of the outstanding liabilities. Bringing the service back in-house was the right decision. We don't shy away from difficult decisions on this side of the chamber, and I'm proud of our administration's determination to strengthen our long-term ability to deliver good quality, affordable houses for the people in Norwich. I'll just move on very briefly to finance and budget setting. And obviously, our financial position underpins everything we do. Despite the financial pressures facing the local government nationally, we remain on solid financial ground with well-managed resources and a strong relative position compared to many councils across the country. This year we're going to be adapting a more dynamic approach to budget setting given the uncertainty in the national and economic environment. So we'll be bringing proposals shortly on that. It's a deliberate, strategic and responsible way for us to manage public money. And I just want to draw attention to some of the highlights delivered by the incredible finance team, which include delivering £4.1 million worth of interest earnings on cash balances, which I think is incredibly impressive. There's more to do, and we're doing it, but it's been a year of genuinely significant steps forward, and I'm really proud of what we've achieved over the last year. And I think, I just wanted actually just to very briefly comment on City Hall. Proposals are being prepared for the next phase of the project to secure the listed building consent for the refurbishment of City Hall and de-risk delivery. We'll be going out to a full public consultation in the new year. Thank you.
I don't think we need any applause, sarcastic applause from the opposition benches. Thank you. Councillor Harper, thank you for that comprehensive thoughts. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for having the opportunity to just give a bit of an update on a few key areas within housing. I won't cover everything because we've been here for a very long time. And I would encourage members to read the housing updates that now are sent to you. Try to get out a regular update on what's going on in housing that's sent to all members, and also to explore the wealth of information we're now sharing on the Housing Finance Dashboard. So as someone who deeply values data and trends, I'll start with a few bits of data performance and tenant satisfaction. This year we've seen an encouraging increase in tenant satisfaction. 71.1% of those surveyed were satisfied overall with the service we're providing, and this is up 6.9%. This clear feedback is vital across the TSMs, and it can direct our focus to areas where we need to continue our improvement journey. Our year-to-date performance remains strong across most areas. We've made significant strides in complaint handling. In Q2 2025-26, stage 1 and 2 complaint volumes saw a year-on-year reduction of 31%, reflecting a massive amount of work that's been done across the housing teams to improve the tenant services our tenants are receiving. And we're steadily improving the timeliness of acknowledgements and responses, and now focused on closing the gap to ensure that we're at the national industry standard. And I believe we're not far off achieving that through the excellent work of so many officers. In terms of transparency and engagement, I believe in transparency and empowering our tenants to scrutinise our work. So we've recently introduced our online housing dashboard, Housing Highlights, enabling anyone to track our progress and hold us accountable. This demonstrates my commitment to the HRA tenants we serve. I'm passionate about exploring new ways to engage our tenants. We've launched our Housing Hub online review system as a first step, and we understand that engagement must be accessible, reaching residents in person or virtually, and importantly, we need to act on what our residents take the time to tell us. And the Hub will also support in identifying key areas of interest to build future engagement strategies. In terms of stock investment in new homes, our existing stock must and always will remain my key priority. But I'm delighted to share progress on new housing. We've started work on the site for the 67 new homes between that Mile Cross, and I'm proud that the streets there, once the development is completed, will be named after women. The enabling work is progressing well, and the main contractor will commence as soon as this is concluded. And we've also been able to buy additional properties and other developments using right to buy receipts, which will be incorporated into the HRA. Safety and compliance. Safety is always at the forefront of what we're doing in the housing team. I monitor compliance data monthly, exploring trends and striving for 100% where possible. We're undertaking new fire risk assessments, providing greater assurance and the streamlined management of all identified remedial actions to promote safety across our stock. We're also addressing new statutory duties with AHEP's law, which came into force from October 2027, regarding how housing providers respond to damp and mould. This is something we've been preparing for the past 2 years, recruiting a dedicated team working with NCSL to ensure we are fully compliant with these new requirements and ensure and we continue to monitor that on a month-by-month basis. We're increasing our stock condition work because you can't have sensible investment until you understand your stock. And I'm really proud that we now reached 75% of it to be inspected in the last 5 years. And that is actual surveys of properties, not desktop surveys, this is actual surveys. This helps us develop a clear strategy to invest and use our tenants' money wisely. And this will support our new asset management plan, ensuring our stock is fit for the long term. On top of the standard stock condition work, I'm really excited by the way we're leveraging new technologies such as using drone surveys to ensure that we're getting accurate roof surveys in the safest, most accurate way possible. Furthermore, our new Capital Works programme will involve 2 new contractors who will be able to invest in Norwich with a long-term commitment. I've been proud to be part of an engagement process through this and look forward to being to announce these new partners shortly. In terms of operational efficiency, as portfolio holder, I monitor things like voids, turnarounds incredibly closely, and we're looking at how these levels work along with the national averages at the moment. We're always exploring ways to reduce the time these properties are empty. This has included arranging viewings earlier and more efficiently, completing pre-inspections of scheduled necessary works promptly prior to keys being handed back, and streamlining many other processes. And we've cleared historical backlogs and now far more resilient to fluctuating numbers of keys in and varied conditions that we receive them in, ensuring that we can provide another family a home as quickly as possible. And finally, also, as Councillor Strong has also mentioned, like in many other parts of the country, we've seen heightened community tensions recently, and I've welcomed our partnership with Belong to promote community cohesion to our city. Norwich must remain a place where all feel welcome. It's not something we can compromise on. Our work with Belong will support our communities to be stronger, more resilient and more inclusive. So in terms of the road ahead, I'm not going to be complacent and will continue to refine and work alongside the housing team as we refine our improvement plan. We have our first planned inspection coming up with the social housing regulator, and I hope this will reflect the strides we've made and the shared commitment I and the housing team, along with the administration, and I'm sure all colleagues in this chamber have, to deliver safe homes for our tenants and high quality services. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Paddock, could you provide your update, please?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm pleased to provide an update on the progress we've made within the Equalities and Social Justice portfolio. Over the past few months, we've continued to deliver on our commitments to create a fairer and more inclusive city, starting from our operational activities that sit at the heart of our ability to deliver an excellent service. Our website upgrade, Find Ways, goes live on the 3rd of December. The modernised platform vastly improves accessibility, ensuring easy engagement for all residents. Key upgrades include 140 languages introduced, a new accessibility toolbar, redesigned homepage and improved web forms. We are also removing all salutations by March for a smoother experience. Every new feature has been built with accessibility at its core. October saw the launch of Innovation Hub. This forum brings together officers from different teams across the council to find creative solutions to problems, driving efficiency and maximising our ability to provide great services for our residents. I'm really looking forward to seeing the ideas that the Innovation Hub generates. I'm pleased to report that customer contact has maintained good levels of performance. We have also become more responsive to complaints and now consistently exceed our target for timely responses. We've made significant improvements to the customer contact centre with a new meet and greet reception desk, visitor booking system and signage. We continue to monitor risks, including the personal safety of staff and customers in the contact centre, and have introduced measures such as body-worn cameras to support safety. Turning to equalities and inclusion, the Equality Information Report and progress against our EDI Action Plan will be considered by the Scrutiny Committee in December and submitted for approval to the January Cabinet meeting. These documents track our progress in tackling health inequalities, socio-economic disadvantage and promoting well-being across the city. We continue to participate in a number of multi-agency initiatives to increase accessibility across the city. These include the Age-Friendly Norwich Transport Group, an innovation fund bid to support digital inclusion, an ongoing collaboration with the Inclusive Norwich Partnership. The principles set out by our multi-agency approach are critical for Norwich as we progress onto LGR. Looking ahead, we are preparing for the ONS Census 2031 consultation, which offers an important opportunity for us to influence national data collection and ensure our diverse communities are represented. Deputy Lord Mayor, members, using our commitment to the cause, using my commitment to the cause and expertise to guide these actions demonstrate our commitment to equality, inclusion, social and environmental justice. I look forward to continue working with you, officers and councillors, to build on this progress and deliver positive outcomes for all our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paddock. Councillor Kidman, would you give your update, please?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I want to begin by thanking our officers. Everything I report tonight is a result of their hard work, professionalism and commitment to our communities, and I'm very grateful for all they deliver. So in no particular order, and it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Carrow House, which I visited last week for Social Enterprise Day, continues to grow as a major asset for our voluntary community and social enterprise sector. Through our partnership with Norwich Unity Hub, we are transforming Carrow House into a dedicated charity and social enterprise hub, directly supporting the We Are Norwich vision of fairness, inclusion and community-led action. In the past year, it has welcomed 20,000 visitors, is home to 25 charities and social enterprises, and used by 18 more organisations. Services span education, housing support, climate action, accessible theatre and mental health provision. The new Carrow House Creative CIC now provides studios for 28 local artists. Carrow House is a catalyst for innovation, resilience and opportunity for communities across Norwich. Our major events have also delivered significant value this year. The Lord Mayor's weekend attracted around 30,000 people, and 8,000 people attended the Festival Lights Switch On last week, despite rather difficult weather. These events support local artists and performers, community groups and businesses, with 70% of all spending staying local. And using MeasureUp's calculator, they generated £27.2 million in social value for the city. Turning to Slowbottom Park. The regeneration will deliver a new 3G pitch, improved changing rooms, a multi-use pavilion and cafe. And this investment in one of our most disadvantaged wards will help more residents, especially young people, to live active, healthier lives and support genuine social mobility. Importantly, the new programme at Slowbottom will include dedicated guaranteed playing time for girls and women, ensuring fair access and supporting long-term growth in women's sport. At Eaton Park, new changing facilities now allow men's and women's teams to use the space simultaneously, removing a key barrier to women's participation in sport. Additional improvements, including cycle storage and better signage, make the whole park more accessible for all users. And more widely, we continue to expand inclusive sport across the city. We're supporting the Community Sports Foundation to deliver Premier League kick sessions for boys and girls, and the Norman Centre now hosts 3 inclusive table tennis festivals a year. Our Nourishing Norfolk Food Hubs offer activities ranging from family Zumba and yoga to table tennis and heritage walks, making physical activity accessible in communities across Norwich. The restoration of the halls is now nearing completion, and when it reopens in the spring, it will be fully accessible, flexible space for community and professional use, and financially sustainable through improved bars and hireable spaces, and it will once again play a central role in the cultural life of Norwich. Through the Health Inequalities Subgroup, we've secured funding for a programme of work in the Rita area around Pilling Park, focused on 4 health priorities. Projects include Community Wizards, a £10,000 small grants pot, a junior park run, Lionwood Cafe, which is a community cafe based at the community centre, and a series of community health events co-designed with residents to ensure they're relevant, transparent and effective. Through UK SPKF, UK Shared Prosperity Fund, we funded future projects to deliver their Brighter Futures initiative, a programme designed to provide practical solutions for those furthest away from employment. And this project has offered comprehensive support, including workshops, community events, employer engagement, outreach appointments and drop-in services across the city. And with our bridging support, Future Projects has now secured the 4-year Connect to Work contract for Norwich. This is a huge outcome for the city. And finally, I want to highlight the achievements of the Norwich Health and Wellbeing Partnership. Since 2022, it has delivered rapid practical support, improved mental health for over 110 men, safer homes for 48 residents, £1.65 million secured for vulnerable households, and over 1,000 conversations captured through our community connectors. Strategic investment has followed. The feed has supported 2,500 households. Employability programmes have reached 400 children, and our work with Menscraft and Age UK has improved wellbeing and prevented emergency GP visits. Deputy Lord Mayor, these achievements reflect a portfolio focused on fairness, resilience and community-led solutions, and they show what partnership, investment and commitment can deliver for this city. I'm proud of what Norwich City Council is achieving, and again, I thank our officers and partners for making this possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kidman. Councillor Giles, if you could provide your update, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm proud to say that this Norwich Labour-led administration here at City Hall is delivering a greener, safer and fairer Norwich through award-winning planning services, bold environmental action and modern regulation that protects residents and supports communities. First, our planning achievements saw Labour and this council leading the way. The Greater Norwich Local Plan has won the Royal Town Planning Institute's award for Best Local Plan in the East of England, a recognition of our vision for sustainable growth across Greater Norwich. That will go forward to the national awards on Thursday evening. Our land charges team has been awarded gold status by Her Majesty's Land Registry, His Majesty's Land Registry, I should say, for outstanding performance. And the Hay Hill project by our landscape team has received the Reba Norfolk Award for Best Designed Landscape. We are now looking forward to the future. Work has begun on the next iteration of the local plan, including a call for sites in early 2026 and a review of existing allocations to ensure deliverability. Cabinet has endorsed the Norfolk Nature Recovery Strategy, which will be considered in planning determinations alongside the Greater Norwich Green Infrastructure SPD, now out of consultation, and the Norwich Biodiversity Baseline Study. These measures ensure all stakeholders get a say in protecting our valued urban biodiversity in Norwich. I am pleased to report that our planning performance remains strong. 86% of planning applications were determined within statutory timescales in Q2, up from 83% in Q1 and well above the 70% benchmark. Over the past year, 90% of decisions have been upheld on appeal against a target of 66%, and the High Court has refused permission for a judicial review against our Planning Application Committee's decision to grant planning consent to Alma, the former URC church on Princes Street, transforming it into a cultural and arts venue. We are also drawing on developers' contributions to invest in strategic and community green infrastructure. 2 bids have been submitted to the Greater Norwich Growth Board for 2026-27 funding, one for regenerating Pilling Park and another for the UEA Yare Valley Walk. Planning consent has also been granted for the Sweetbriar Marshes project, with Natural England support and no objections received. Turning to regulatory services, this council is driving efficiency and accountability. We've insourced animal licensing, enforcement and environmental permit inspections, bringing control back in-house of these services. Licensing pending applications have been cut since the end of May by 91%, from 324 pending applications to just 30, and the residual risk score on our corporate risk register has reduced from 16 to 12. Deputy Lord Mayor, this is Labour in action. planning for the future, protecting our environment, investing in communities and delivering efficient, modern services that put residents first. Effective planning and licensing policy underpins everything we do as a city, and I would like to thank all of our officers and my fellow Cabinet members for working hard to ensure we are delivering for all residents across Norwich. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Councillor Giles. So we'll now move on to item 7, which is questions to Cabinet members. So there are 13 questions from members of the Council to Cabinet members, of which notice has been given in accordance with provisions of Part 3 of the Constitution. A copy will be available on the Council's website. Members who have asked questions are permitted to put a supplementary question to the Cabinet member. So question 1, Councillor Lubbock, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hampton, for your response. Can we, or I, have a report back from the councillor who sits on the Norfolk Parking Partnership, and to hear whether there has been any future success in redirecting resources to the CPZ areas outside of the city centre, if not directing resources, but improving the time it takes for reports to get back to the officers, who then can make a visit to see whether the report is still live or not. Thank you.
Councillor Hampton, would you give a reply, please?
Yeah, short answer, yes. And there's, as the answer reflects, sort of two sides to this. There's the time it takes for reports to get back from Kingsley to us, and I know there's conversations going on, especially at officer level, to try and understand some of the delays and sort that and the process out. And then there's the second half of as it alludes to how we allocate the resource that end of it. But I'm happy to pick up in more detail what bits you'd like some more information on, and get back in touch with you.
Thank you. Question 2, Councillor Driver, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. The likely before mayoral candidate is making films encouraging local businesses to sponsor units at £400 per month, so that homeless people can stay in. Given that this isn't practical in any way, we'll probably miss many of the complex issues that are often intertwined with rough sleeping. How can we harness such generosity of spirit and ensure that local businesses and entrepreneurs are able to directly fund services to support homeless people?
Thank you. Councillor Hart, would you give your reply, please?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Well, I mean, I couldn't possibly comment on the motivations of the person who's been making these films, but what I can say is that he's absolutely right. We should always welcome efforts to support people who are homeless. Obviously, rough sleeping is complex, and while well-meaning ideas can sometimes gain attention, the most effective way for local businesses and entrepreneurs to help is to back organisations in our city that already have the expertise to get people off the streets and into safety. Partners like St Martin's, who obviously deal with some of the sharp end of homelessness and rough sleeping, and organisations like Your Own Place, Community Interest Company, who do vital work to prevent homelessness. Particularly amongst young people, and I was fortunate to meet with the CEO of Your Own Place earlier, we had a brief discussion about this generous offer that's been made, and she said that it would be absolutely transformative for the services that her organisation can offer, particularly for young people. Dramatically increasing the coverage of provision. So, I think if local businesses are feeling generous, that's absolutely fantastic. And I know that our filmmaker has pledged £1,600 per month to sponsor units in St Saviour's Yard. And as Councillor Driver says, quite rightly, we can't have people sleeping in units that were designed for retail. But I very much hope that the gentleman in question will make good on that promise of £1,600 per month, and that money will find its way to one of those excellent charity partners where it can make a real and lasting difference.
Thank you. Question 3, Councillor Sue-Sams, do you have a supplementary question?
I do indeed, if you will, Mayor. Yeah. What are the plans for Margaret toilets, which are often in, shall we say, sub-optimal state?
I thank you for your question, Councillor Sands. Well, the good news is you've only got a few days to wait for the full plans to be revealed, but I can exclusively confirm that we are going to fix and refurbish the toilets, and I know it's an important issue for market visitors and traders alike. Haters going to hate, but you know, we're determined to make our market and our city centre the very best that it can be, and I'm delighted that we're in a position to deliver on that long-held public priority.
Thank you. Question 4, Councillor Mike Sands, do you have a supplementary question?
No, Deputy Lord Mayor. I thank the Academy for their response, but I have no supplementary.
Thank you. Question 5, Councillor Packer, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Excuse me.
Thank you. Question 6, Councillor Fox, do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Giles, for your reply, and I really welcome that the council has no burden on any of its properties. We do, however, receive applications for such bird netting, and I use one that Mangrove residents have raised with me as an example. That application doesn't provide any evidence on the extent of bird problem and just refers to birds when several species of birds can be found on red line streets, such as starlings, long-tailed tits, and different gull species. And starling numbers, for example, were down 82% in the UK's Garden Birdwatch survey this year, and removing roosting sites can add extra pressure to those species. And also, the Barclays building on Red Line Street isn't listed, and that bird netting would just shift any problems to adjacent buildings, some of which might be listed. And it's kind of like a bit of a bird whack-a-mole, where wildlife is pushed further and further to the edge. So if plans are approved by the council, we will really scrutinise them or do proper inspection of maintenance. So does Councillor Giles accept the position on bird netting stated by the British Wildlife Rehabilitation Council, which says, unfortunately, it's very common for birds to become tangled in the netting. They can suffer severe injuries and without help die. And does he agree that we as councillors should be doing everything we can to prevent such harm to our already under pressure and declining native wildlife?
Councillor Giles, if you can reply, please.
Well, yes, in terms of the statement. In terms of the finer details in the question or the content included in the question, I need to go back and interact with you offline and correspond with you offline in relation to that.
Thank you. Question 8, Councillor Knight, do you have a supplementary question? Sorry, apologies. Question 7, Councillor Galvin, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, I do. In 24 to 25, thanks for the answer. 24 to 25, the HRA upgrades budget line for renewable heating had £800,000 allocated. As far as we're aware from the accounts, none of that was spent. By contrast, the heating and boilers domestic budget spent its £800,000 budget, then went on to nearly double it, spending 700k more to a total of 1.5 million spent by the end of the year. So it's clear from the answer as well that many council homes have had gas boilers fitted in recent years when they could have been fitted with clean, good value renewable energy options instead. The council has, I'm sure, scoped out how many of its properties could have heat pumps and solar panels. Can you tell me what that target figure is?
Councillor Jones.
Off the top of my head, no. I will get that for you. It's not one of the many figures that I hold in my head, I'm afraid. What I would say is one of the reasons we're doing the massive amount of stock condition survey work is that, as I'm sure you know far more than me about installing these, that actually we need to look at the whole fabric of the building when we're looking at upgrades. And if we're going to do it efficiently for residents, I believe we need to do it in the best way it can work for them. So it's really important having the stock condition information so we can be really clear which are the priority areas and how we understand how we spend that capital investment across all the stock, because we need to be prioritising where they're most effective and where people are going to gain the most from any changes we make. Everything we invest has to be in the best interest of our tenants, and that will first and foremost always be my priority. But we are working very closely with the environmental team. With Councillor Hampton and I, it's something we're talking more and more about. There's a lot of engagement between the service areas to understand how we invest different pots of money. And if you once we publish the new HRA business plan, that looks at where our investment is and where we've got to get that funding from as well. And it's part of a wider piece of work. But we had to start from kind of grounds that we need to understand our stock before we invest as a whole. We also want to minimise disruption for tenants. If we're going to go and do one bit of work, we want to do it alongside other things, because people have lives and we need to make work we do in their homes as easy for them as possible and minimally intrusive.
Thank you. Question 8, Councillor Knight, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I won't ask you to pull a number from your head, but I have a couple of different sort of ways to hone in on this. First of all, with regard to the suitability of heat pumps and solar panels, I have some residents who've been having some problems with that, and I'd love to have a proper sit-down conversation with you about that. But in regards to my unfortunate asking for figures, if you could at some point, I won't ask you to say now, but tell me how many voids have had heat pumps and solar panels installed so far. That would be really great if I could have an email with that figure at some point. Thank you.
I'm happy to look into that for you. I would say the solar panels particularly are normally part of a separate programme where we look at where is the most appropriate properties to put that on and which pots of funding we've got at any one time, and looking to try and do properties that are close to one another, so we're minimising. You want it to be efficient as well. So I can get you a range of different figures around what we've installed and when we've done it.
Question 9, Councillor Hogan, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hampton, for your response, which states that the Council has a clear commitment to ongoing reduction in the use of herbicides across the city. However, the data that was shared with us by officers indicates a persistently high herbicide use over the years, if not an increasing use. What reassurances can you provide that the Council is indeed committed to reducing herbicide use, including use of glyphosate, which has been associated with negative effects on human and environmental health?
Councillor Hampton.
Thank you for the questions. I think of a lot of the answers in my original answer. We use herbicides in a select, targeted way where it is necessary. Otherwise, the paving or whatever surface that is on could pose health and safety issues to users. My answer sort of demonstrated that we have been and will continue trialling non-chemical methods, but the technology is not really caught up with the needs of councils yet. Obviously, the flagship example of the council moving away from chemical herbicides and then having to face the consequences was Brighton under its green leadership. Some of the photos from that kind of era are quite shocking at how out of control surfaces can get if you don't do a targeted herbicide approach. As it says, this month we are going to be trialling the new high pressure hot water weed removal system we add on to the sweeper fleet. So results of that will be interesting, and over the past 2 years other non-chemical methods have been trialled, but the reality is they're not are kind of the different methods, they're either not efficient, massive increase in labour time, have kind of different environmental impacts sometimes, so there's not necessarily an easy solution to this yet, but our commitment remains.
Thank you. Question 10, Councillor Stookley, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Wolf, I do. Excuse me. Thank you for your response, Councillor Jones. I understand the reasons given that do reasonably demonstrate that PSPO may not be the right method to address this issue at this time. However, for the past 2 summers, this city and the entire country has suffered from politically and often racially motivated unrest. These issues are ongoing and concern us all. Therefore, what evidence is there to reassure the public that the measures you are proposing in your response will be successful? Within that reassurance, can you detail your contingency plans if we need to go further? Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you. So I'd just also like to add that PSPO was something actually looked at a number of months ago. It was one of the things considered and looked at how it would impact the community, and there was a lot of conversations about it, and it was something looked at very seriously. So in terms of measures and things to be successful, I think what's crucial is a lot of these things are things the police can do, and they're not things that what we can do is the work we do belong. And in terms of track record with that, they have a track record. The work they have done elsewhere in the country has had very meaningful improvements in community cohesion and reducing tensions in communities. They come with that experience, so I have a lot of confidence in them, and I think it's for us to be stepping forward and saying we want to take a lead around this, but we want communities to take a lead and empower them. It's not going to be a quick fix, I don't think anything is, because there are a lot of different factors that play into what's been happening, and I think we need to give the people time to work through things and work as a community and build and grow. And we don't grow things overnight, but I think we're going to provide the right building blocks. Only time will tell, and we need to be monitoring that, and we need to be engaging in it and promoting it and championing it. And I think if we go at it with a positive mindset, I think that's all I know I can bring to it, and my support as portfolio holder.
Thank you. Question 11 is Councillor Young has sent apologies for the meeting. There won't be a supplementary question for that one. Question 12, Councillor Oliver, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Councillor, for your response. I'm really pleased that the policy on replacement household bins will be reviewed. But in the meantime, I was wondering where we can, what to do about people who are unable to use the full-size bins due to reasons of disability, for example. Do we have any options to help them? And if not, are we breaching the law, perhaps? Thank you.
Councillor Hampton.
Yeah, I think the assisted collection service in many of those cases is going to be of help. Details and form for application online, but if there are specific cases you're aware of where different or extra support is needed, get in touch with myself, officers, whoever's most appropriate, and we'll look at options.
Thank you. Question 13, Councillor Champion, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I don't have a supplementary.
Great. Thank you very much. Right, well, I don't expect anyone expected us to be in this position, but we're now at the 2-hour mark, so we just need to bear with me while we work out how to proceed. So we reached the 2-hour mark since the start of the meeting. So I need to ask if any of the remaining items can be taken as unopposed business. I propose to go through them in order, and we'll then see the rulings. So, item 8 is the political proportionality, composition and membership of the committees for Norwich City Council 2025. 25. I take it that we're all unopposed. That doesn't look opposed, okay, so that's fine. Item 9, appointment of a local returning officer for Norfolk and Suffolk Combined County Authority elections. I'm not necessarily sure if you need to leave the room for whether it's been taken as opposed or unopposed. But, yeah. Is that taken? Can we take that as unopposed? Yeah, good. Right. Now, item 10, recommendation of the independent remuneration panel. Now, I gather, Councillor Stannard, that you were perhaps proposing to table an amendment to that, so I think we will need to deal with that in some way, and actually probably should be taking that as unopposed business anyway.
So, yeah, there were 3 amendments which we were proposing. I think we suggested them to the principal opposition. I think that they met with approval, but I'll be swayed by.
I'll take advice from officers about whether we need to go through a process, because they've not been pre-published. I think we probably would need to consider.
That was a misunderstanding. Yeah, they should be pre-published.
So we'll need to at least consider that item for those to be formally tabled. So item 11, adjustments to the cap.
May I make a comment on the last one, please? I wonder, because we reached this time, whether that item could go to the next full council meeting. It would give us a chance to discuss the amendments which only came to us yesterday in good time and table and actually discuss it fully.
What it is, I'm not prepared to take a debate on this, Councillor. What I will say is, because there is at least one other item that we will have to take as opposed business, because it also relates to amendments, we will have a break once we've gone through these items, and we'll discuss this in the break and then make that proposal when we come out of that. Councillor Gowan, did you have a comment you wish to make? I don't want to get into a debate on the item now, you see.
I rather think that I can say or not whether we've actually accepted the amendments. Can I? After we've spent hours listening to words, is it an acceptable thing to say or not? I don't want to use up loads of time, but we haven't accepted the amendments.
Well, the amendments haven't been tabled yet.
Okay, so we haven't accepted them.
No, we haven't accepted the amendments, so they've not been tabled. So that item either, and we can have a discussion about whether it gets moved to the next meeting, but it has to be heard because the amendments haven't been tabled. So item 11, adjustments to the capital programme. Can that be taken as unopposed business? Yeah, thank you. Item 12, annual report of the audit committee. Can that be taken as unopposed business? And not for the chair of the audit committee there. Vice chair, thank you. So that is unopposed business. Right, we don't have anything on item 13. 14A, which is a motion which has been carried over from the previous meeting of full council, has 2 amendments on it which haven't been tabled. And so we at least need to have a very brief period where Councillor Harper effectively formally accepts those amendments, as I understand it, or formally tables those amendments, and then members are given an opportunity to say something on that. So that needs to be heard, albeit very briefly.
With the World Cup.
Yes. For those that didn't hear, Councillor Driver said we'll be at the World Cup before we so 14B we've obviously already dealt with. 14C, following advice received from the monitoring officer, I've deferred my motion for consideration in this meeting using the Lord Mayor's discretion, that it would be inappropriate for me to put forward a political motion when sitting as an apolitical and impartial chair of council. This will instead be held in January 2026. So we then come on to motion 14D, welcoming Pride in Place funding for communities in Norwich. Is that unopposed? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have a very brief 10-minute break while we... sorry?
5 minutes.
Well, let's say 10 to allow those that need to get some fresh air outside or something to do that. And then we'll be adjourned just in that time. slightly longer than the 10 minutes, but I think we have a way forward on item 10, the recommendation of the Independent Remuneration Panel. We will defer that to January's council, which will give an opportunity for members to look at some of the proposals in more detail. And I think given the lateness of the hour, give an overall better opportunity to debate it in January. So hopefully everyone is in agreement with that. We'll take a formal vote on that. So those in favour of deferring to January, please indicate. That is unanimous. Thank you. And then we just quickly need to deal with the motion 14A, congratulating the lionesses. There are a couple of amendments, I think, Councillor Harbour. One is your own amendment, and one is from Councillor Schmier. I think you were going to formally accept those to be part of the substantive motion.
Yes, we've agreed an amendment to the amendments. It's just minor, but if I read them out, I think we are aligned. So I'm proposing that we adopt following for Cabinet to explore continuing to work with Active Norfolk, the Community Sports Foundation, Norwich City Football Club, schools, the city's higher and further education institutions, local sports clubs, Norfolk Public Health and other relevant bodies and organisations. B, opportunities for investment, coaching pathways and targeted community programmes to reduce barriers that prevent girls and young women from continuing in team sports. C, continue working with the Norfolk FA to identify reasons why females are so underrepresented within all roles of football, especially in refereeing and coaching. D, providing a report back to Council within 12 months with recommendations and progress on actions to address comparatively low participation of women and girls in team sports, especially post-school age.
Thank you. So from a clarity perspective, what do we need to do in terms of obviously this is an unopposed item, but we've got some clarity on the amendments.
Thank you, Lord Deputy Lord Mayor. So as that has been put forward, that would supersede Councillor Schmierer's motion. So Councillor Schmierer, could you confirm you withdraw yours because of that new wording? Then we are free to then take a vote on that. And second.
Yeah, just need a second. I think Councillor Kidman was down as the second of the item.
Yeah.
Formally second?
Yeah. We second reserve last week.
Yeah, thank you. I'll take a vote on that. All those in favour, please indicate. That is unanimous. Thank you very much for your indulgence.